Hello, hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening in whichever part of the world you're in. So today we're gonna be reading, that's it, Dracula by Bram Stoker. And basically how this is going is it's not really an ASMR reading of the novel, but more so just like me reading it aloud. So if I mess up any words, hi Evolution, welcome. So if I mess up any words, or if I just like break the reading and I just burst into laughter or offer any sort of commentary, that's what this entails. So it's a reading of series. I'm gonna start and just read like any novel that's within the public domain. I'm gonna read it aloud. But again, this is just me reading the novel to y'all and just my experience of reading it. And if I get any words wrong, then you'll know those are the words I don't say very often. I actually have a book with me. I don't know if you can hear it. Let's see. See? It's pages. Got the book with me. So I'm very excited. I thought, Dracula was the most, not common sense, but it was logical to start with this one first and foremost, if anything. So I actually made a little book cover here. It's like the teeth and the like rawr. That's what the book looks like. So that's just how I made the book. But yeah, so I'm gonna be reading that. So if I say anything wrong, feel free to correct me or just let me know if I do say it wrong. I'm excited for like one part in particular that my friend told me. What did she say? Because they're doing a daily Dracula, I guess, or Dracula daily on TikTok or something. And so she told me this one part in the book and I just start laughing. I thought, is it actually as funny as she's making it sound like, or is it just the way I'm gonna view it? It's gonna be really funny. So I don't know, we'll see. But I'm really excited, and I'm gonna keep it on the screen because I'm just reading essentially. But yeah, I thought this was a fun series considering I'm a bookworm at heart. Dude, books, hot nerd. I am a nerd. I love books. I have a ginormous library. Giant. It's my pride and joy. Honestly, I really do. Oh. Okay, sorry. That's an eyelash on the pages. I do love reading. So, and I want to try and make this fun, but then again, I really react oddly when I read. Like at some point, I'll just be reading and then I'll just randomly burst into laughter. Say a curse word here or there, or just like say something and then I go back to like reading. That's if I'm reading silently, but if I'm reading aloud, I think it'll be funnier. But the text is like a pretty good size. I don't think you all need to know what edition I have, just because it's the same either way. In case y'all are wondering, I have the Signature Classics. So sorry. But I didn't know how long it was. I thought, oh yeah, I could just like for one stream. And then I looked up like the audiobook reading time. It's like 6 hours. I was like, oh, okay, no, we're gonna split that up. So this is part one, for however long I can read. And due to, what was it? Unexpected errand event. Anyways, I only found out this morning that I need to attend something tonight. Therefore, this is only gonna be up until, this is gonna be about a 2-hour stream, a little less than 2 hours, but at least 2 hours in a sense. So sorry if I cut it short. The other ones will be longer. And I actually decided, due to how early my last stream was yesterday, I'm probably gonna save the reading streams for Monday mornings instead of Tuesday afternoons. So on Tuesday afternoons, I'm gonna do actual games. So Monday morning is like the reading of series, and then Tuesday afternoon will be games, and then Thursday afternoon is Pokemon. Until I'm done with that, then we'll switch to another game. So it just kind of depends. So I'm do reading of Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday are just gonna be for games. So I hope that's okay with y'all. I just figured if some of y'all can't make it on the morning, it's okay. Me reading aloud is just more of something to listen to instead of watching. So I figured that would be better as like a replay instead, or just like at the VOD, so on and so forth. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Where's chapter 1? Here it is. Okay, and as much as I like reading, I read a bunch of other stuff, so I haven't read many of the classics, surprisingly. Therefore, I'm gonna be reading a lot of the classics. Also public domain. Yay. And I'm gonna keep the background song on, but I'm gonna have it really low. So is that... I think that's okay, right? Okay. Or do you all prefer the song on while I'm reading, or should I just cut the song? It's up to y'all. And don't worry, I do have water, and I did not bring a bookmark. Oh my gosh. I'm not a true bookworm. No problem. Take all the time you need. No need. Oh, okay, thank you. I should brought a bookmark. I'm a fake nerd. Should have brought one. I think I have like 50 bookmarks. I collect bookmarks too, so depending on what kind of a book it is, I'll pick a bookmark that like matches it. Okay. Guess we'll go ahead and jump right into it. We're in chapter 1, Jonathan Harker's journal. Okay, that's why I put Dear Diary on the cover. All right. And okay, in parentheses, it says kept in shorthand. Okay. 3rd of May. That's already a word I don't know. Bistritz? I'm sorry if I said that wrong, everyone. I'm sorry. Okay, left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st May, arriving at Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. Oof. Late trains, those are never fun. Just kidding, I never been on a train, believe it or not. Not even a bus. Well, no, like, no, I have been on a bus. It depends. I haven't been on a train, though, surprisingly. Budapest. Is that how it's spelled? Okay, so it's spelled like B-U-D-A-P-E-S-T-H. Huh, okay. Something like Budapest Hotel. And I'm like, I don't think it was spelled like that. Okay. Oh no, I lost my pit. Okay. Budapest seems a wonderful place from the glimpse which I got of it from the train and the little I could walk through the streets. I feared to go very far from the station, as we had arrived late and must start as near as the correct time as possible. The impression I had is that we were leaving the west and entering the east. The most western of splendid bridges over the Danube, which is here of noble width and depth, took us among the traditions of Turkish rule. Actually, yeah, I'm going to turn off the music, because I'm like trying to read and pay attention, but at the same time I'm like listening to the song. Okay. I lost my place. Oh, okay, no, that weird word. There's a lot of semicolons here. Which is here of noble width and depth, took us among the traditions of Turkish rule. We left in pretty good time and came after nightfall to another word I don't know. Klausenberg, yeah. Here I stopped for the night at the Hotel Royal. I had for dinner, or rather supper, a chicken done up some way with red pepper, which is very good but thirsty. And then parentheses, mem, get recipe for Mina. Oh, okay. Oh, memo. I'm assuming that's like a memo? Who's Mina? I guess we'll find out who Mina is later. I asked the waiter, and he said it was called paprika hendel, and that, as it was a national dish, I should be able to get anywhere along the Carpathians. I found my smattering of German very useful here. Indeed, I don't know how I should be able to get on without it. These are a lot of German things. Don't know how to pronounce. Forgive me for my poor pronunciation. Having some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum. Lucky. And made search among the books and the maps of the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country should hardly fail to have some importance in dealing with a noble of that country. I find that the district he named it is in the extreme east of the country, just on the borders of the 3 states, Transylvania, Moldavia, it's Moldavia, and Bukovina. What? Okay. In the midst of the Carpathian Mountains, one of the wildest and least known portions of Europe. I was not able to light on any map or work giving the exact locality of the castle Dracula, as there are no maps of this country as yet to compare with our own ordnance survey maps. But I found that Bistritz, the post town named by Count Dracula, is a fairly well-known place. I shall enter here some of my notes as they may refresh my memory when I talk over my travels with Mina. Wait, so Dracula... Wait, does he own Transylvania? What? Okay, the post town named by Dracula. Okay. We'll just continue. Whatever. Excuse me. In the population of Transylvania, there are 4 distinct nationalities. Saxons in the west, and mixed with them the Wallachs, who are the descendants of the Dacians. Y'all, there's a lot of words in here I have no idea how to pronounce. But this is a true read-through, so I'll look them up next stream. Magyars in the west and the Sekels in the east and north. Okay. I'm going among the latter, who claim to be descended from Attila and the Huns. This may be so, for when the Magyars conquered the country in the 11th century, they found the Huns settled in. I read that every known superstition in the world is gathered into the horseshoe of the Carpathians, as if it were the center of some sort of imaginative whirlpool. If so, my stay may be very interesting. Then another memo. I must ask the Count all about them. Okay, so we're gonna go visit Dracula. That's fine. I did not sleep well, though my bed was comfortable enough, for I had all sorts of queer dreams. There was a dog howling all night long under my window. Shoot. Let me say it again. There was a dog howling all night long under my window, which may have had something to do with it, or may have been the paprika, for I had to drink up all the water in the carafe, and was still thirsty. Isn't paprika like really spicy? I know it's a spice, right? Yeah, I know there's an anime named Paprika, but I'm pretty sure paprika is a spice. I don't eat a lot of spices. I get heartburn. So towards morning, I slept and was wakened by the continuous knocking at my door. So I guess I must have been sleeping soundly then. I had for breakfast more paprika. Oh gosh. And sort of a porridge of maize flour, which they said was mamaliga, and eggplant stuffed with force meat. Force meat? What's force meat? I haven't heard that before. A very excellent dish, which they call impletara. Another memo. Get a recipe for this also. He's getting a lot of recipes at this point. We've got 2 right now. I had to hurry breakfast, for the train started a little before 8, or rather it ought to have been done so, for after rushing to the station at 7:30, I had to sit in the carriage more than an hour before we began to move. It seems to me that the further east you go, the more unpunctual are the trains. What ought they to be in China? All day long we seemed to dawdle through a country which was full of beauty of every kind. Sometimes we saw little towns or castles on the top of steep hills, such as we see in old missals. Sometimes we ran by rivers and streams which seemed from the wide stony margin on each side of them to be subject to great floods. It takes a lot of water and running strong to sweep the outside edge of the river clearly. At every station there are groups of people, sometimes crowds, and in all sorts of attire. Some of them were just like peasants at home, or those I saw coming through France and Germany, with short jackets and round hats and homemade trousers, but others were very picturesque. The women looked pretty, except when you got near them, but they were all very clumsy about the waist. They had all full white sleeves of some kind or other, and most of them had big belts with lots of stripes, of something fluttering from them like the dresses in a ballet, but of course petticoats under them. The strangest figures we saw were the Slovaks, who were more barbarian than the rest, with their big cowboy hats, great baggy dirty white trousers, white linen shirts, and enormous heavy leather belts nearly a foot wide, all studded over with brass nails. They wore high boots, with their trousers tucked into them, and had long black hair and heavy black mustaches. They are very picturesque, but do not look prepossessing? Prepossessing? What? Prepossessing. Oh, prepossessing, my bad. do not look prepossessing. On the stage, they would be set down at once at some old oriental band of brigands? Brigands? Brigands. Ah. They are, however, I am told, very harmless and rather wanting in natural self-assertion. It was on the dark side of twilight when we got to Bistritz, which is a very interesting old place, being practically on the frontier, for the Borgo Pass leads from it into Bukovina. It has had a very stormy existence, and it certainly shows marks of it. 50 years ago, a series of great fires took place. Wow, it's a lot of fires. 50 years ago, a series of great fires took place which made terrible havoc on 5 separate occasions. At the very beginning of the 17th century, it underwent a siege of 3 weeks and lost 13,000 people. Oh my god. Casualties of war proper being assisted by famine and disease. Oh my goodness. Count Dracula had directed me... Oh, wait. Did I skip a page? No, I didn't. Okay. I guess we got to Count Dracula's place. Depends. Oh, hello! Crossfire 865. Too spoopy for me. Well, this is his journal entry, so he's very writey. He writes a lot, apparently. Who's writing? Jonathan Harker. Yeah, that guy. Okay. Count Dracula had directed me to the Golden Crone Hotel, which I found, to my delight, to be thoroughly old-fashioned, for of course I wanted to see all I could of the ways of the country. I was evidently expected, for when I got near the door, I faced a cherry-looking elderly woman in the usual peasant dress, white undergarments with long double apron, front and back, of colored stuff fitting almost too tight for modesty. When I came close, she bowed and said, "The Englishman?" "Yes," I said, "Jonathan Harker." She smiled and gave some message to an elderly man in white shirt sleeves, who had followed her to the door. He went, but immediately returned with a letter. Oh, okay. I just kind of skimmed down. It seems Dracula sent this. "My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. Sleep well tonight. At 3 tomorrow, the diligence will start for Bukovina. A place on it is kept for you. At the Borgo Pass, my carriage will await you and will bring you to me. I trust that your journey from London has been a happy one, and that you will enjoy your stay in my beautiful land. Your friend, Dracula." That's a nice letter. Cool, cool, cool. All right, we're on to the next day. 4th of May. I'm saying 4th of May because it says 4 May, but it sounds better when I say it 4th of May. Okay. I found that my landlord had got a letter from the Count, directing him to secure the best place on the coach for me. But on making inquiries as to the details, he seemed somewhat reticent? What does reticent mean? Huh. Oh, is it hesitant? Is reticent mean like hesitant? Guess so. And pretended that he could not understand my German. This could not be true, because up to then he had understood it perfectly. At least he answered my questions exactly as if he did. It's like, hey, what's going on? Wait, why don't you get what I'm saying now? I lost track. Okay. He and his wife, the old lady who had received me, looked at each other in a frightened sort of way. Oh, do they fear Dracula? So they're like, oh, we can't mess with this guy. Guess so. He mumbled out that the money that had been sent in a letter, and that was all he knew. That the money had... What? There was money in the letter? When I asked him if he knew Count Dracula and could tell me anything of his castle, both he and his wife crossed themselves and saying that they knew nothing at all, simply refused to speak further. Oh, I guess they're just scared of the guy. It was so near the time of starting that I had no time to ask anyone else, for it was all very mysterious and not by any means comforting. Well, yeah. when the nearby locals are like, "Ooh, yeah, no, we don't know anything." It's like, but I thought you did. It's like, nope, no, nothing. He's like, okay, we're gonna continue, Mr. Harker. Just before I was leaving, the old lady came up to my room and said in a very hysterical way, "Must you go? Oh, must you go?" Is she trying to say heir? Her. I feel like this is a specific lingo. Sorry if I say it wrong. She was in such an excited state that she seemed to have lost her grip on what German she knew, and it mixed it all up with some other language which I did not know at all. I was just about to follow her by asking some questions, when I told her I must go at once and that I was engaged on important business. She asked again, "Do you know what day it is?" No, he asked this. Okay, no. Wait, hold on. Okay, I thought she was a... No, yeah, no, she asked. Do you know what day it is? I answered that it was the 4th of May. She shook her head as she said again, oh yes, I know that, but do you know what day it is? On my saying that I did not understand, she went on, it is the eve of St. George's Day. Do you not know that tonight when the clock strikes midnight, all the evil things in the world will have full sway? Do you know where you're going and what you're going to? Oh, okay, so everybody knows that he's a vampire, except this guy. This guy doesn't know. She was in such evident distress. I tried to comfort her, but without effect. Finally, she went down on her knees, implored me not to go. Oh, that's so nice. She feels bad. She's like, please don't go. You're going to die. Let's see. At least to wait a day or two before starting. It was all very ridiculous, but I did not feel comfortable. However, there was business to be done, and I could allow nothing to interfere with it. I therefore tried to raise her up and said as gravely as I could that I thanked her, but my duty was imperative, and that I must go. Okay, Mr. Harker, good choices, I guess. She then rose and dried her eyes, and taking a crucifix from her neck, offered it to me. I did not know what to do, for as an English churchman, I have been taught to regard such things as in some measure idolatrous. I have not heard that word before either. Yet it seemed so ungracious to refuse an old lady, meaning so well and in such a state of mind. She saw, I suppose, at the down my face, for she put the rosary round my neck and said, for your mother's sake. Oh, that's really sweet. Okay, for your mother's sake. Oh, yeah, that's sweet. And went out of the room. I rang up this part of the diary with... See, diary. He refers as a diary. I'm writing up this part of the diary whilst I am waiting for the coach, which is, of course, late. And the crucifix is still around my neck. Whether it is the old lady's fear, I do not know, but I am not feeling nearly as easy in my mind as usual. If this book should ever reach Mina before I do, let it bring my goodbye. Here comes the coach! Okay, glad it showed up. The 5th of May. The castle. Dun dun dun. Just kidding. The gray of the morning has passed, and the sun is high over the distant horizon, which seems jagged. Whether with trees or hills, I know not, for it is so far off that big things and little are mixed. I'm not sleepy, and as I am not to be called till I awake, naturally I write till sleep comes. Wow, I'm surprised your writing doesn't look like chicken scratch, but she looks pretty. When I get really sleepy, my handwriting gets really chicken scratch. Like really, really bad. Let's see. Also, heads up, I'm reading, so I'm not looking at chat. So if I miss something and it takes a while for me to see it, that is why. And I lost my place. Oh, here we are. There are many odd things to put down, lest who reads them may fancy that I dined too well before I left Bistritz. Let me put down my dinner exactly. Man, my friend was not kidding when he wrote his dinner very avidly. Why do you keep writing about your dinner, sir? I guess it made an impact on him. I dine on what they call robber steak. What? What's robber steak? Wait, is him explaining exactly what the steak is, or is it like a specific steak? Bits of bacon, onion, and beef seasoned with red pepper, strung on sticks and roasted over the fire in the simple style of the London cat's meat. Cat's meat? What? Like actual cats, or is this just like a saying? Okay. The wine was golden mediask? I don't know. Okay. Which produces a queer sting on the tongue, which is, however, not disagreeable. I had only a couple of glasses of this and nothing else. When I got on the coach, the driver had not taken his seat, and I saw him talking with the landlady. They were evidently talking of me. Like he knows. He's like, oh, hi, Chris. Welcome. Great, you made me lose my thought. Where am I? Oh, okay. They were evidently talking of me, for every now and then they looked at me, and some of the people who were sitting on the bench outside the door, which they call by name meaning word bearer, came and listened, and then they looked at me. I like how they're all gossiping about him, and he's just sitting there. They're just looking back at him. He's like, what the hell? Just looking at him. Most of them pitting. Oh, jeez, this poor guy. I could hear a lot of the words often repeated, queer words, for there are many nationalities in the crowd. So I quietly got my polyglot dictionary from my bag and looked them out. I must say they were not cheering to me, for amongst them was Ordog, Satan, oh, Pokol, Hell. God. I can just imagine him like flipping through a dictionary and the words are just getting significantly worse as he's looking them up, and he's just looking in horror at this book, his dictionary. Stragoika, witch, Vorlok, and Virkolsklak, both of which mean the same thing, one being Slovak and the other Serbian for something that is either werewolf or vampire. Another memo. I must ask the Count about these superstitions. I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask the vampire about the vampires. Unknowingly knowing. Like, unknowingly? Yeah, he's gonna unknowingly ask a vampire about the vampires. And Satan. And witches. And every other superstition word he is hearing. Oh man, this is really funny. Is this more of a dramatic irony? I guess it would be for anyone reading. It's like, well, you know he's a vampire. But Jonathan doesn't. Jonathan doesn't know anything, which is why he's confused. When we started, the crowd round the inn door, which had by this time swelled to a considerable... Wow! So like a lot of people came out. They're probably like, oh, that poor young man. We should just make the funeral for him now. Say our prayers. When we started, the crowd round the inn door, which had by this time swelled to a considerable size, all made the sign of the cross and pointed 2 fingers toward me. I'm sorry. He's sitting in a... imagine this. Imagine he's sitting in a coach. For anyone that hasn't seen a movie, in case this... I don't know. I've never seen any Dracula movies. I've seen Van Helsing, but that doesn't really count. So imagine there's this guy... He's sitting in a coach, and everyone is just to the side in front of this inn, and they're just talking about him, and they're just like throwing words like Satan and he's like sitting there like, what the heck? And then suddenly they all turn around and they just give him the sign of the cross. You know, it's like, okay, now at that point, when someone gives you the sign of the cross, that should let you know that you might be in very, very real danger. I mean, if someone said don't go and they're praying this heavily for me, I wouldn't go. Like, honestly. Oh my god. With some difficulty, I got a fellow passenger to tell me what they meant. He would not answer at first, but on learning that I was English, he explained that it was a charm or guard against the evil eye. Oh. Wait, does he not know the sign? He's a churchman, though. So didn't he know the sign of the cross? Oh, wait, no. Wait, sign of the cross and point 2 fingers towards me. Oh, is it the addition of the 2 fingers that he doesn't know about? I guess I haven't seen the sign of the cross like that. Just the usual, like, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, you know. Let's see. Against the evil eye. Okay. This was not very pleasant for me. I would think not, Jonathan. I would be very worried if I were you. I would turn around. That's what I would do. Just starting for an unknown place to meet an unknown man. But everyone seems so kind-hearted and so sorrowful and so sympathetic that I could not but be touched. He's like, it didn't change my mind, but I'm flattered. You know? Oh, jeez. Jonathan. I shall never forget the last glimpse which I had of the inn yard and its crowd of picturesque figures, all crossing themselves as they stood round the wide archway with its background of rich foliage of Olinder? It's Olinder. And orange trees and green tubs clustered in the center of the yard. When our driver, whose wide linen drawers covered the whole front of the box seat, Gotza, they called them, cracked his big whip over his 4 small horses, which ran abreast, and we set off on our journey. Goodbye, Jonathan. I soon lost sight and recollection of ghostly fears and the beauty of the scene as we drove along. Yes, scenery can help with your fears. If only I knew that. If only it worked. It doesn't. Okay. Oh, because although had I known the language, or rather languages, which my fellow passengers were speaking, I might not have been able to throw them off so easily. Before us lay a green sloping land full of forests and woods, with here and there steep hills, crowned with clumps of trees or with farmhouses, the blank gable end to the road. There was everywhere a bewildering mass of fruit blossom. Apple, plum, pear, cherry. I think this guy is hungry. The fact he's writing this much about his dinner and is very like, look at those fruits. What does he call them? Mass of fruit blossom, you know. And as we drove by, I could see the green grass under the trees spangled with the fallen petals. In and out amongst these green hills of what they call here the Mittelland ran the road, losing itself as it swept round the grassy curve or was shut out by the straggling ends of pine woods, which here and there ran down the hillside like tongues of flame. The road was rugged, but still we seemed to fly over it with feverish haste. I cannot understand then what the haste meant, but the driver was evidently bent on losing no time reaching Borgo Prund. I was told that this road is in summertime excellent, but that it had not yet been put in order after the winter snows. In this respect, it is different from the general run of roads in the Carpathians, for it is an old tradition that they are not to be kept in too good order. Of the old hospodars would not repair them, lest the Turks should think that they were preparing to bring in foreign troops. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so hasten the war, which is always really at loading point. Oof. Beyond the green swelling hills of the Mittelland rose mighty slopes of forest up to the lofty steps of the Carpathians themselves. Right and left of us they towered with the afternoon sun falling upon them and bringing out all the glorious colors of this beautiful range. Deep blue and purple in the shadows of the peaks, green and brown where grass and rock mingled, and an endless perspective of jagged rock and pointed crags, till these were themselves lost in the distance, where the snowy peaks rose grandly. Here and there seemed mighty rifts in the mountains, through which, as the sun began to sink, we saw now and again the white gleam of falling water. One of my companions touched my arm as we swept round the base of a hill and opened up the lofty, snow-covered peaks of a mountain, which seemed, as we wound on our serpentine way, to be right before us. What? Look, isten Zik? God's seat. And he crossed himself reverently. As we wound our endless way and the sun sank lower and lower behind us, the shadows of the evening began to creep around us. A lot of round and wound. This was emphasized by the fact that the snowy mountain tops still held the sunset and seemed to glow out with a delicate cool pink. Oh, that sounds really pretty. Reminds you of Dragon Spine and Genshin. Ha! You all didn't think I was gonna bring up Genshin, huh? Well, I did. Ow. My microphone. Oh, here and there we passed Czechs and Slovaks in all in picturesque attire, but I noticed that the goitier, what? Never seen that word either, was painfully prevalent. By the roadside were many crosses, and as we swept by, my companions all crossed themselves. Okay. Here and there was a peasant man or woman kneeling before a shrine, who did not even turn around as we approached, but seemed in the self-surrender of devotion to have neither eyes nor ears of the outer world. There were many things new to me, for instance, hayricks in the trees, here and there, very beautiful masses of weeping birch and their white stems, shining like silver through the delicate green of the leaves. Now and again we passed a Leiter wagon? Or the ordinary peasant's cart, with its long snake-like vertebra, calculated to suit the inequalities of the road. On this were sure to be seated quite a group of homecoming peasants, the Czechs with their whites and the Slovaks with their colored sheepskins, and the latter carrying Lamps fashioned their long staves with axe and at end. As the evening fell, it began to get very cold, and the growing twilight seemed to merge into one dark mistiness, sorry. And the gloom of the trees, oak, beech, and pine, though in the valleys which ran deep between the spurs of the hills, as we ascended through the pass, and the dark firs stood out here and there against the background of late-lying snow. Wow, if only I can be this good at writing descriptions. Then again, I'm getting very confused. Okay. Sometimes as the road was cut through the pine woods that seemed in the darkness to be closing down upon us, great masses of grayness, which here and there, he uses here and there a lot, which here and there bestrewed the trees, produced a peculiarly weird and solemn effect, which carried on the thoughts and grim fancies engendered earlier in the evening, when the falling sunset threw into strange relief the ghost-like clouds which amongst the Carpathians seemed to wind ceaselessly through the valleys. Sometimes the hills were so steep that, despite our driver's haste, the horse could only go slowly. I wished to get down and walk up to them, as they do at home, but the driver would not hear of it. "No, no," he said, "you must not walk here. The dogs are too fierce." And then he added, with what he evidently meant for a grim pleasantry, for he looked round to catch the approving smiles of the rest, and you may have enough of such matters before you go to sleep." What? Okay. You gonna run some dogs? Was that a warning? The only stop he would make was a moment's pause to light his lamps. When it grew dark, there seemed to be some excitement amongst the passengers, and they kept speaking to him, one after the other, as though urging him to further speed. He lashed the horses unmercifully with his long whip, and with wild cries of encouragement urged them on to further exertions. Then through the darkness I could see a sort of patch of grey light ahead of us, as if there was a cleft in the hills. The excitement of the passengers grew greater. The crazy coach rocked on its great leather springs and swayed like a boat tossed on a stormy sea. I had to hold on, because the guy was driving like crazy. It's strange how he's like in excitement, but it's like, you mean in panic. But I guess like the way I've seen excitement read in this book so far is like, oh yeah, like a little frenzied, but like when I think of excitement, I think really happy. In this case, it's like really panicked. And at that point, I would be more worried at that point. I said that twice. It's okay. The road grew more level and we appeared to fly along. Then the mountains seemed to come nearer to us on each side and to frown down upon us. We were entering the Borgo Pass. One by one, several of the passengers offered me gifts, which they pressed upon me with earnestness, which would take no denial. These were certainly of an odd and varied kind, but each was given in simple good faith, with a kindly word and a blessing, and that same strange mixture of fear-meaning movements which I had seen outside the Hotel Bistritz, the sign of the cross and the guard against the evil eye. Then as we flew along, the driver leaned forward, and on each side of the passengers, craning over the edge of the couch, peered eagerly into the darkness. It was evident that something very exciting was either happening or expected, but though I asked each passenger, no one would give me the slightest explanation. Maybe he would have, I take that back. If you told him, hey, Dracula is a vampire, I think he would not have believed them, if I'm being quite honest. The state of excitement kept on for some little time, and at last we saw before us the pass opening out on the eastern side. There were dark rolling clouds overhead, and in the air the heavy, oppressive sense of thunder. It seemed as though the mountain range had separated two atmospheres, and that now we had gone into the thunderous one. I was now myself looking out for the conveyance, which is to take me to the Count. Each moment I expected to see the glare of lamps through the blackness, but all was dark. The only light was the flickering rays of our own lamps, in which the steam from our hard-driven horses rose in white cloud. We can now see the sandy road lying white before us, but there was on it no sign of a vehicle. The passengers drew back with a sigh of gladness. They're like, oh, thank God! Okay. Which seemed to mock my own disappointment. He's just like, where's my friend? And everyone's like, oh my God, thank goodness he's not here. I hope nobody goes screaming when the guy shows up, They might just kick out Jonathan. They're like, who are you waiting for? Dracula. Yeah, your stop's here. Get off. But it seems they've been really nice to him as of late, so, yeah, we'll see. I was already thinking that I had best to do when the driver, looking at his watch, said to the others something which I could hardly hear. It was spoken so quietly and in so low a tone, I thought it was an hour less than the time. Then turning to me, he said in German, worse than my own. There is no carriage here. The her is not expected after all. We will now come on to the Bukovina and return tomorrow on the next day. Better the next day. Oh, tomorrow or the next day. Whilst he was speaking, the horses began to neigh and snort and plunge wildly, so that the driver had to hold them up. When amongst the chorus of screams from the peasants and a universal crossing of themselves, a caleche? Okay. With 4 horses drove up behind us, overtook us, and drew us beside the coach. I can see from the flash of our lamps as the rays fell on them that the horses were coal black and splendid animals. They were driven by a tall man with long brown beard and a great black hat, which seemed to hide his face from us. I can only see the gleam of a pair of very bright eyes, which seemed red in the lamplight. As he turned to us, he said to the driver, "You are early tonight, my friend," the man stammered in reply. "The Englisher was in a hurry," to which the stranger replied, "That is why, I suppose, you wish him to go on to Bukovina. You cannot deceive me, my friend. I know too much. My horses are swift." Were they trying to outrun Dracula? Oh my gosh. I mean, they gave a very solid run. And they did not make it. I can see that now. That's hilarious. He's like, "Ha! You thought you can out-chase me. Think again." Nah. As he spoke, he smiled. The lamplight fell on a hard-looking mouth, with very red lips and sharp-looking teeth, as white as ivory. One of my companions whispered to another the line from the Burgers Lenore. "Den die Toten reten schnell." Sorry if I'm butchering any sort of German for any German speakers watching. "For the dead travel fast." Indeed they do. I am very fast. Sometimes. The strange driver evidently heard the words, for he looked up with a gleaming smile. The passenger turned his face away, at the same time putting out his 2 fingers and crossing himself. He's like, "Leave me alone. Be gone." This is funny. He looked away because it's like, "Ducky, ducky." Or he looked away because he's like, he's looking at me. I don't want to die. You guys think it's the former? Do you think it's the latter? Let me know. The strange driver evidently heard the... Okay. "Give me the her's luggage," said the driver, and with exceeding alacrity... Alacrity. The hell is that? My bags were handed over and put in... Leche. Is this a type of carriage? That's hilarious. They're like, "Give me his luggage." They're like, "Yes, sir!" Oh, hello. Hi, Noah. Welcome. It's like, "Give me the bags." They're like, "Yes, sir!" They just chuck the bags at him. Like, "Here you go." Then I descended from the side... Descended! Then I descended from the side of the coach as the... Caleche? I'm pretty sure it's not called Caleche, but I'm going to call it that till someone corrects me. Was close alongside. The driver helped me with a hand which caught my arm in a grip of steel. His strength must have been prodigious. Without a word, he shook his rein. The horses turned, and we swept into the darkness of the pass. As I looked back, I saw the stream from the horses of the carriage by the light of the lamps, and projected against in the figures of my late companions crossing themselves. Then the driver cracked his whip and called to his horses, and off they swept on their way to Bukovina. As I sank into the darkness, I felt a strange chill, and a lonely feeling came over me. But a cloak was thrown over my shoulders, and a rug across my knees, and the driver said in excellent German, "The night is chill, mein Herr, and my master the Count bade me take all care of you." Okay, so he's another vampire. He wasn't Dracula, my bad. Okay, so this guy's another vampire. Gotcha. Okay. Nice. I lost my spot. Where am I? Oh, okay, okay. The Count bade me take all care of you. There's a flask of Slivovitz, the plum brandy of the country, underneath the seat, if you should require it. I did not take any, but it was a comfort to know it was there, all the same. I feel a little strange and not a little frightened. Why? Jonathan, what is wrong with you? Oh my god! This man has no suspicion or doubt in his bone. I worry for him. I think, had there been any alternative, I should have taken it instead of prosecuting the unknown night journey. The carriage went at a hard pace straight along, then we made a complete turn and went along another straight road. It seemed to me that we were simply going over and over the same ground again, so I took note of it some salient point and found that this was so. I would have liked to have asked the driver what this all meant, but I really feared to do so, for I thought that, placed as I was, my protest would have had no effect in case there had been an intention to delay. By and by, however, as I was curious to know how time was passing, I struck a match and by its flame looked at my watch. It was within a few minutes of midnight. This gave me a sort of shock, for I suppose the general superstition about midnight was increased by my recent experiences. I waited with a sick feeling of suspense. Jonathan, this should have made you more, thought, wow, this man is a little sussy. Just a little bit. That's okay, Jonathan. But there's still a couple hundred pages left, so you survived a good amount, at least. Then a dog began to howl somewhere in a farmhouse far around the road, a long, agonized wailing as if from fear. Well, of course, animals are very smart about these things. You know that saying where if there's a devil on the roof, the cat's gonna jump. It's gonna jump off. It's not worth it. Let's see. I feel like I heard that saying somewhere. I'm not remembering it correctly, but something along those lines. The sound was taken up by another dog, and then another, and another, till, borne on the wind, which now sighed softly through the pass, a wild howling began, which seemed to come from all over the country, as far as the imagination can grasp it through the gloom of the night. At the first howl, the horses began to strain and rear, but the driver spoke to them soothingly, and they quieted down, but shivered and sweated as though after a running away from sudden fright. Then far off in the distance, from the mountains on each side of us began a louder and sharper howling. That of wolves. Ow! Ow, ow, ow! You guys like my howling? Bark, bark. Just kidding. Which affected both the horses and myself in the same way, for I was minded to jump from the caleche and run, which they reared again and plunged madly, so that the driver had to use all of his great strength to keep them from bolting. Yeah, I would have ran, Jonathan. Just run, buddy. Run like the wind. Run, Forrest, run! Just kidding. In a few minutes, however, my own ears got accustomed to the sound, and the horses so far became quiet that the driver was able to descend and to stand before them. He petted and soothed them and whispered something into their ears, as I have heard of horse tamers doing, and with extraordinary effect, for under his caresses they became quite manageable again, though they still trembled. These poor, poor horses. They know what's up. They're aware of what's going on. The driver again took his seat, and shaking his reins, started off at a great pace. This time, after going to the far side of the pass, he suddenly turned down a narrow roadway which ran sharp to the right. Soon we were hemmed in with trees, which in places arched right over the roadway till we passed as through a tunnel, and again great frowning rocks guarded us boldly on either side. Though we were in shelter, we could hear the rising wind, for it moaned and whistled through the rocks, and the branches of trees crashed together as we swept along. It grew colder and colder still, and fine powdery snow began to fall, so that soon we and all around us were covered with a white blanket. Ooh, chilly. Chilly, chilly, chilly. The keen wind still carried the howling of the dogs, though this grew fainter as we went on our way. The baying of the wolves sounded nearer and nearer, as though they were closing around on us from every side. Are the wolves chasing them? That is not good. Oh, I guess that's what the driver meant. He's like, oh, don't worry, you'll see how bad the dogs are later. And he's like, what? Doesn't even know. I guess now he knows. I grew dreadfully afraid. Jonathan, you should have been more afraid earlier. And the horses shared my fear. But the driver was not in the least disturbed. Of course not, he's a vampire. Why would he be? He kept turning his head to the left and right, but I could not see anything through the darkness. Suddenly, away on our left, I saw a faint flickering blue flame. The driver saw it at the same moment. He at once checked the horses and jumped to the ground, disappeared into the darkness. Wait, what? Did he just leave it? Did he leave the carriage there, or is it still going? I'm sorry, I'm like suddenly thinking of Sebastian from Black Butler. I'm sorry, I really am. I feel like all this stuff is something he would do. Is that it? Did the author perhaps take some inspiration from Dracula, maybe? Because these seem like something Sebastian would do. The horses too. You know, he's a cat lover. Okay. I did not know what to do. The less as the howling of the wolves grew closer, but while I wondered, the driver suddenly appeared again, and without a word took a seat, and we resumed our journey. Okay, not even a bit suspicious. I think I must have fallen asleep. Why? Just why? I think I must have fallen asleep and kept dreaming of the incident, for it seemed to be repeated endlessly, and now appeared so near the road that even the darkness... Oh, no. Oh, okay, no. No, I'm sorry. I skipped a line. To be repeated endlessly, and now, looking back, it is like a sort of awful nightmare. A little bit. Once the flame appeared so near that near the road that even in the darkness around us, I could watch the driver's motions. He went rapidly to where the blue flame rose. It must have been very faint, for it did not seem to illumine the place around at all. And gathering a few stones, for them into some device. Once there appeared a strange optical effect. When he stood between me and the flame, he did not obstruct it, for I could see its ghostly flicker all the same. This startled me, but as the effect was only momentary, I took it at that my eyes deceived me, straining through the darkness. Okay, you see, I can understand that. Oh, okay, that's so sweet. Thank you. Oh, that's sweet. What kind of bedtime stories did your grandmother used to read you? Is it like these kind of stories or like the children's books? I also do read children's books, everybody, but that I don't think it's in public domain, so I can't. Though if I do find an old enough children's book, I'll be sure to grab it and read it to y'all. Where am I? Oh, right, sorry. Yeah, okay, your eyes being a little finicky with you at night, that's understandable. Then for a time there were no blue flames, and we sped onwards through the gloom with the howling of the wolves around us, as though they were following in a moving circle. I would still be scared. Okay. At last there came a time when the driver went further afield than he had yet gone, and during his absence the horses began to tremble worse than ever. Okay, I know the horses are scared, but you would think they would have, like, horses that are used to them by now? Or maybe those passed away. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, if they don't have human blood, they might use animal blood. Okay, yeah, I can see if these are new horses. Let's see. Oh, right. And during his absence, the horses began to tremble worse than ever, and to snort and scream with fright. I would be frightened if a horse starts screaming. Goodness me. I cannot see any cause for it, for the howling of the wolves had ceased altogether. But just then the moon, sailing through the black clouds, appeared behind the jagged crest of a beetling pine-clad rock, and by its light I saw around us a ring of wolves with white teeth and lolling red tongues, long, sinewy limbs, and shaggy hair. Holy cannoli, if you weren't scared then, Jonathan, you better be scared now. 'Cause you ain't no grandma from True Women, okay? I don't think you can fight off a pack of wolves and protect a pregnant cow, okay? And good job to anyone that gets that reference. Yes, I did read True Women. I don't think I finished the entirety, or I might have. I can't remember if I did. They were 100 times more terrible in the grim silence which held them than even when they howled. For myself, I felt a sort of paralysis of fear. It is only when a man feels himself face to face with such horrors that he can understand their true import. What the hell is that supposed to mean? What? Okay. Like importance? Is that what he meant? Like their true importance? I guess so. All at once the wolves began to howl as though the moonlight had some peculiar effect on them. Werewolves, what? I didn't say anything. It wasn't me. Must have heard wrong. The horses jumped about and reared and looked helplessly round with eyes that rolled in a way painful to see, but the living ring of terror encompassed them on every side, and they had perforce to remain within it. I called to the coachman to come, for it seemed to me that our only chance was to try to break out through the ring and to aid his approach. I shouted and beat the side of the caliche, hoping by the noise to scare the wolves from that side so as to give him a chance of reaching the trap. How he came there I know not, but I heard his voice raised in a tone of imperious command, and looking towards the sound, saw him stand in the roadway. As he swept his long arms as though brushing aside some impalpable obstacle, the wolves fell back and fell further still. Just then a heavy cloud passed across the face of the moon, so that we were again in darkness. Sebastian, folks. No, I just realized we don't even know this guy's name. What's the coachman's name? When I could see again, the driver was climbing into the... Okay, I'm pretty sure it's not called Caleche. I'm gonna look it up after we're done with this chapter real quick. And the wolves had disappeared. Okay, good for him. This was all so strange and uncanny that a dreadful fear came upon me. As it should, Jonathan. And I was afraid to speak or move. The time seemed interminable as we swept on our way, now in almost complete darkness, for the rolling clouds obscured the moon. We kept on ascending, with the occasional periods of quick descent, but in the main always ascending. Suddenly, I became conscious of the fact that the driver was in the act of pulling up the horses in the courtyard of a vast ruined castle, from whose tall black windows came no ray of light, and whose broken battlements showed a jagged line against the moonlit sky. Dun dun dun! All right, we are on chapter 2. I'm going to look up how to say that carriage, because... Ow! Oops. I was moving my phone and my knuckle hit the pages. Let me look up how this carriage is read. Let's see. Where's my tissue bookmark? I know, I'm not a fake bookworm, guys. I just forgot to grab a bookmark. Define a leche. But I spelled it wrong. What is this? No, it's still spelled it. A low-wheeled carriage with removable folding hoods. Okay, let me...
Kalash.
Oh, Kalash? Wait.
Kalash.
Let me do it again.
Kalash.
Kalesh. It was not Kaleche. Kalesh. Kalesh. Okay, it's Kalesh. Well, I don't think we're going to be looking at the Kalesh anymore. But I hope you all had fun me calling it Kaleche. Isn't that how you call milk leche? Alright. Chapter 2. Jonathan Harker's journal continued. 5th of May. I must have been asleep, for certainly if I had been fully awake, I must have noticed the approach of such a remarkable place. Sir, I think you were just in shock at this point. In the gloom of the courtyard looked of considerable size, as several dark ways led from it under great round arches. It perhaps seemed bigger than it really was. I have not yet been able to see it by daylight. When the caleche... Oh, it showed up again. That pronunciation. Hey, this is my first read through of Dracula, so if there's a lot of words I don't know, I'm going to pronounce it the way I think it's pronounced and then figure it out later. When the Kalesh stopped, the driver jumped out and held out his hand to assist me to alight. Again, I could not but notice his prodigious strength. His hand actually seemed like a steel vice that could have crushed mine if he had chosen. Then he took out my traps and placed them on the ground beside me as I stood close to a great door, old and studded with large iron nails and set in a projecting doorway of massive stone. I could see even in the dim light that the stone was massively carved, but that the carving had been much worn by time and weather. As I stood, the driver jumped again into his seat and shook the reins. The horses started forward, and trap and all disappeared down one of the dark openings. Oops, my bad. I stood in silence where I was, for I did not know what to do. Of bell or knocker there was no sign. Through these frowning walls and dark window openings, it was not likely that my voice could penetrate. So you're saying they're very thick walls. So if something were going on inside, no one would know. Something of any kind of nature. Wink, wink. Just kidding. The time I waited seemed endless, and I felt doubts and fears crowding upon me. Poor guy is just standing outside of a castle looking up at it like, what the hell do? I just went through the craziest night of my life, and I'm just standing outside this door. What sort of place had I come to, and among what kind of people? What sort of grim adventures on which I had embarked? Was this a customary incident in the life of a solicitor's clerk sent out to explain the purchase of a London estate to a foreigner? Solicitor's clerk? Mina would not like that. Solicitor, for just before leaving London, I got word that my examination was successful, and I am now a full-blown solicitor. He's so happy. He's like, I was a clerk. Now I'm full solicitor without the clerk. Good job, Jonathan. I began to rub my eyes and pinch myself to see if I were awake. It all seemed like a horrible nightmare to me, and I expected that I should suddenly awake, find myself at home with the dawn struggling in through the windows. Oh, I really like that phrase, dawn struggling through the windows. I like that phrase a lot. That's a nice phrase. Okay. I lost my train of thought. Where's the frickin' line? Oh, here's. As I had now and again felt in the morning after a day of overwork. But my flesh answered the pinching test. Pinching test. That was the most normal, phrase ever. My flesh answered the pinching test. And my eyes were not to be deceived. I was indeed awake, and among the Carpathians. All I could do now was to be patient and to wait the coming of morning. Just as I had come to this conclusion, I heard a heavy step approaching behind the great door, and saw through the chinks the gleam of a coming light. Then there was a sound of rattling chains and the clanking of massive bolts drawn back. A key was turned with the loud grating sound of long disuse, and the great door swung back. Say open. Within stood a tall old man, clean-shaven save for a long white mustache. Dracula has a mustache? Amazing. And clad in black from head to toe, without a single speck of color around him anywhere. He held in his hand an antique silver lamp, in which the flame burned without a chimney or globe of any kind, throwing long, quivering shadows as it flickered in the draught of the open door. The old man motioned me in with his right hand, and with courtly gestures, saying in excellent English but with a strange intonation, "Welcome to my house. Enter freely and of your own will." Oh, is this in reference to you can't be invited in? You can't go in unless you're invited? Yes? No? Where am I? Oh, he made no motion of stepping to meet me, but stood like a statue, as though his gesture of welcome had fixed him into stone. The instant, however, that I had stepped over the threshold, he moved impulsively forward, and holding out his hand, grasped mine with strength which made me wince, an effect in which was not lessened by the fact that it had seemed cold as ice. more like the hand of a dead than living man. Dun dun dun. Jonathan, Jonathan, you must notice these things. Again, he said, welcome to my house. Come freely, go safely, and leave something of the happiness you bring. What? I've never heard that greeting before. That's not an odd greeting, but not something I would think of. Okay. The strength of the handshake was so much akin to which I had noticed in the driver, whose face I had not seen, that for a moment I doubted if it were not the same person to whom I was speaking. So to make sure, I said interrogatively, Count Dracula? He bowed. He bowed in a courtly way as he replied, I am Dracula, and I bid you welcome, Mr. Harker, to my house. Come in! The night air is chill, and you must need to eat and rest. As I was speaking, he put the lamp on a bracket on the wall, and, stepping out, took my luggage. He had carried it in before I could forestall him. I protested, but he insisted. Nay, sir, you're my guest. It is late, and my people are not available. Let me see to your comfort myself. What a gentleman! And to have Count Dracula carry your luggage? Wow, Jonathan, living the good life. For the short amount of time you might have. Let's see. He insisted on carrying my traps along the passage, and then up a great winding stair, and along another great passage, on whose stone floor steps rang heavily. At the end of this, he threw open a heavy door, and I rejoiced to see within a well-lit room in which a table was spread for supper, and on whose mighty hearth a great fire of logs flamed and flared. The Count halted, putting down my bags, closed the door, and crossing the room opened another door, which led into a small octagonal room lit by a single lamp, and seemingly without a window of any sort. Passing through this, he opened another door and motioned me to enter. It was a welcome sight, for here was a great bedroom, well lighted and warmed with another log fire, which sent a hollow roar up the wide chimney. The Count himself left my luggage inside and withdrew, saying before he closed the door, You will need, after your journey, to refresh yourself by making your toilet. I trust you will find all you wish. When you are ready... Sorry, wait, what? You will need, after your journey, to refresh yourself by making your toilet. What? I'm sorry. I haven't heard this phrase before. Making your toilet. What does that mean? Like, is he saying, oh, you're probably gonna have to go pee, so go ahead. Is that what he's saying? Or is it just use the bathroom? Why can't I just say bathroom? Was bathroom not a word thing? Why does it say make the toilet? I was like trying to keep a straight face as I could, and then it's like it clicked. It's like make your toilet, and I couldn't hold it in. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. We'll try that again. You will need, after your journey, to refresh yourself by making your toilet. I trust you will find all you wish. When you're ready, come into the other room where you will find your supper prepared. The light and the warmth and the Count's courteous welcome seemed to have dissipated all my doubts and fears. Wow. Okay, so a little bit of kindness will make you not scared, Jonathan. You're very easy to please, it seems. Jonathan likes the simple things in life. Having then reached my normal state, I discovered that I was half famished with hunger. So making a hasty toilet... I think it just means going to the restroom. I think that's all it means. But like the way they say going to the restroom is making toilet. It's like, what? It's like, oh, I need to go make the toilet. It's like, wait, what? It's like, I need to use the restroom. I'm going to try that phrase next time and see how people react. Okay, so making a hasty toilet, I went into the other room. I found supper already laid. My host, who stood on one side of the great fireplace, leaning against the stonework, made a graceful wave of his hand onto the table and said, I pray you, be seated and sup how you please. You will, I trust. Excuse me that I do not join you, but I have dined already. I do not sup. Have you supped yet, my man? Just kidding. Just kidding. You give him a shovel in there, you dig a hole and down a toilet. Yeah, but they're inside the castle. I don't think you can shovel rock. I mean, for a prison escape, you can, but like... Oh, what was it? I handed to him the sealed letter which Mr. Hawkins had entrusted to me. He opened it and read it gravely. Then, with a charming smile, he handed it to me to read. One passage of it, at least, gave me a thrill of pleasure. What? Wait, I don't get... What's in this letter? What? I must regret that an attack of gout from which, milady, I am a constant sufferer, forbids absolutely any traveling on my part for some time to come, but I am happy to say I can send a sufficient substitute, one in whom I have every possible confidence. He is a young man full of energy and talent on his own way, and of a very faithful disposition. He is discreet and silent, and has grown into manhood in my service. He shall be ready to attend on you when you will during his stay, and shall take your instructions in all matters. So I read this, and I'm sorry, but this honestly sounds like he sent a very friendly person to accompany him into the night. Yeah. I'm sorry, like, if you like read it with that mindset, it's like, he shall be ready to attend on you when you will during his stay, and shall take your instructions in all matters. You know, when you gotta do these things in secret, I guess. Wink, wink. I'm just kidding, y'all. I know he's there because Dracula bought some land in London. Let's see. The Count himself came forward and took off the cover of a dish. I fell to at once on an excellent roast chicken. Ooh. This, with some cheese and a salad and a bottle of eau tokay, of which I had 2 glasses, was my supper. During the time I was eating it, the Count asked me many questions as to my journey, and I told him by degrees all I had experienced. Me and Dracula must be really lonely, huh? Oh, I know, right? By this time I had finished my supper, and by my host's desire had drawn up a chair by the fire and began to smoke a cigar, which he offered me, at the same time excusing himself that he did not smoke. I had now an opportunity of observing him, and found him of very marked physiognomy? Physiognomy? I've never heard that word. His face was a very strong aquiline, with high bridge of the thin nose and peculiarly arched nostrils, with lofty domed forehead, and hair growing scantily round the temples, but profusely elsewhere. His eyebrows were very massive, almost meeting over the nose, with bushy hair that seemed to curl in its own profusion. The mouth, so far as I could see it, under the heavy mustache, was fixed with rather cruel looking with peculiarly sharp white teeth. Nyah, 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 like mine. I have sharp teeth. Rah, 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 rah. These protruded over the lips, whose remarkable ruddiness showed astonishing vitality in a man of his years. I'm sorry, I paused again. I'm thinking like, you're explaining him in great detail. I mean, this is helpful for description, but like, you know, Jonathan's like paying really close attention to the client. I mean, what? For the rest, his ears were pale, and at the tops extremely pointed. The chin was broad and strong, and the cheeks firm though thin. The general effect was one of extraordinary allure. Hitherto, I had noticed the backs of his hands as they lay on his knees in the firelight, and they had seemed rather white and fine. But seeing them now close to me, I could not but notice that they were rather coarse, broad with squat fingers, Strange to say, there were hairs in the center of the palms. The nails were long and fine and cut to a sharp point. He's gonna have to cut those later tonight. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry. As the Count leaned over me and his hands touched me, I cannot repress a shudder. I'm sorry. It may have been that his breath was rank, but a horrible feeling of nausea came over me, which, do what I would, I could not conceal. The Count, evidently noticing it, drew back, and with his grim silver smile, which showed more than he had yet done, his protuberant teeth, sat himself down again on his own side of the fireplace. We were both silent for a while, and as I looked towards the window, I saw the first dim streak of the coming dawn. There seemed a strange stillness over everything, but as I listened, I heard, as if from down below in the valley, the howling of many wolves. The Count's eyes gleamed, and he said, "Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make." Seeing, I suppose, some expression in my face strange to him, he added, "Ah, sir, you dwellers in the city cannot enter into the feelings of the hunter." Then he rose and said, "But you must be tired. Your bedroom is all ready, and tomorrow you shall sleep as late as you will. I have to be away till the afternoon, so sleep well and dream well." And with a courteous bow, he opened for me himself the door to the octagonal room, and I entered my bedroom. Hair in the center of the palm? Yep, definitely lonely. I am all in the sea of wonders. I doubt, I fear, I think strange things which I dare not confess to my own soul. Are you catching feelings for Dracula? No, just kidding. Just kidding. God keep me, if only for the sake of those dear to me. Okay, the 7th of May. It is again early morning, but I have rested and enjoyed the last 24 hours. I slept till late in the day and awoke of my own accord. Oh, isn't that the life? When I had dressed myself, I went into the room where we had supped and found a cold breakfast laid out, with the coffee kept hot by the pot being placed on the hearth. There was a card on the table on which was written, "I have to be absent for a while. Do not wait for me. D." It's even worse that his initial would be D. So I set to and enjoyed a hearty meal. When I had done, I looked for a bell, and so that I might let the servants know I had finished. But I could not find one. Lost my spot. Where is it? Oh. There are certainly odd deficiencies in the house, considering the extraordinary evidence of wealth which are round me. The table service is of gold and so beautifully wrought that it must be of immense value. The curtains that upholster the chairs and sofas and the hangings of my bed are of the costliest and most beautiful fabrics, and must have been of fabulous value when they were made, for they are centuries old, though in excellent order. I saw something like them in Hampton Court, but they were worn and frayed and moth-eaten. But still, in none of the rooms is there a mirror. How strange. There is not even a toilet glass on my table. Toilet glass? What's a toilet glass? Isn't that just another mirror, or is this like a specific mirror? Huh. And I had to get the little shaving glass from my bag before I could either shave or brush my hair. I have not yet seen a servant anywhere or heard a sound near the castle except for the howling of the wolves. When I had finished my meal, I do not know whether to call it breakfast or dinner, for it was between 5 and 6 o'clock when I had it. I looked about for something to read, for I did not like to go about the castle until I had asked the Count's permission. There was absolutely nothing in the room, book, newspaper, or even writing materials, so I opened another door in the room and found a sort of library. The door was opposite mine I tried, but found locked. In the library I found, ooh, that's always a good discovery when you're in a castle, is a really cool library. I would definitely visit Dracula's castle to read his library. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't go for a library? Nobody? Is it just me? In the library I found, to my great delight, a vast number of English books, whole shelves full of them, and bound volumes of magazines and newspapers. A table in the center was littered with English magazines and newspapers, though none of them were of very recent date. The books were of the most varied kind: history, geography, politics, political economy, botany, geology, law, all relating to England and English life and the customs and manners. Oh, maybe Dracula was studying. He was studying to receive Jonathan. There were even such books of reference as the London Directory, the Red and Blue Books, Whitaker's Almanac, and the Army and Navy List, and it somehow gladdened my heart to see it, the Law List. Whilst I was looking at the books, the door opened and the Count entered. He saluted me in a hearty way and hoped that I had a good night's rest. Then he went on, "I am glad you found your way in here, for I am sure there is much that will interest you. These friends," and he laid his hand on some of the books, "have been good friends to me, and for some years past, ever since I had the idea of going to London, had given me many, many hours of pleasure." Draco's a nerd too. He is. Where did it go? Oh. "Through them I have come to know your great England, and to know her is to love her. I long to go through the crowded streets of your mighty London, to be in the midst of the world and the rush of the humanity, to share its life, its change, its death, and all that makes it what it is. But alas, as yet I only know your tongue through books. To you, my friend, I look that I know it to speak." "But, Count," I said, "you know and speak English thoroughly." He bowed gravely. "I thank you, my friend, for your all too flattering estimate, but yet I fear that I am but a little way on the road I would travel. True, I know the grammar and the words, but yet I know not how to speak them." "Indeed," I said, "you speak excellently." "Not so," he answered. "Well, I know that. Did I move and speak in your London, none there who would not know me for a stranger. That is not enough for me. Here I am noble. I am a boyar. The common people know me, and I am master. But a stranger in a strange land? He is no one. Men know him not, and to know not is to care not for. I am content if I am like the rest, so that no man stops if he sees me, or pause in his speaking if he hear my words, to say, 'Aha! A stranger!' I have been so long master that I would be master still, or at least that none other should be master of me. You come to me not alone as an agent of my friend Peter Hawkins of Exeter, to tell me all about my new estate in London. You shall, I trust, rest here with me a while, so that by our talking I may learn the English intonation. And I would that you tell me when I make error, even of the smallest, in my speaking. I am sorry that I had to be away so long today, but you will, I know, forgive one who has so many important affairs in my hand." Man, if you didn't know English, you could have fooled me. Because this whole paragraph is significantly more complicated than what I would ever say in my entire life. Oh my goodness. Of course, I said all I could about being willing, and asked if I might come into that room when I chose. He answered, "Yes, certainly," and added, "You may go anywhere you wish in the castle, except where the doors are locked, where of course you will not wish to go." Beauty and the Beast. What? Didn't say anything. "There is reason that all things are as they are, and did you see with my eyes and know with my knowledge, you would perhaps better understand." I said I was sure of this, and then he went on. "We are in Transylvania, and Transylvania is not England. Our ways are not your ways, and there shall be to you many strange things." See, he's already cooking up a very good excuse for all his weird vampire stuff he's going to be doing. Jonathan's going to question, be like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's a Transylvania thing." He'll be like, "Okay." You know. "Nay, for what you have told me of your experiences already, you know something of what strange things here may be." This led to too much conversation, and as it was evident that he wanted to talk, if only for talking's sake, I asked him many questions regarding things that had already happened to me or come within my notice. Sometimes he sheered off the topic, or turned the conversation by pretending not to understand, but generally he answered all I asked most frankly. Then, as time went on, I got somewhat bolder. I asked him of some of the strange things of the preceding night, as for instance, why the coachman went to the places where he had seen the blue flames? Was it indeed true that they showed where gold was hidden? Is that what the coachman told? He's like, what'd you do? Oh, there was gold. He's like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I would go get it. He's like, oh, can I see it? No. Oh, okay, I won't see the gold then. Like, he then explained to me that it is commonly believed that on a certain night of the year, last night, in fact, when all the evil spirit is supposed to have unchecked sway, a blue flame is seen over any place where the treasure has been concealed. That treasure has been hidden, he went on. In the region through which you came last night, there can be but little doubt, for it was the ground fought over for centuries by the Wallachian, the Saxon, and the Turk. Why, there is hardly a foot of soil in all this region that has not been enriched by the blood of men, patriots, or invaders. Okay. In old days, there were stirring times when the Austrian and the Hungarian came up in hordes, and the patriots went on to meet them, men and women, the aged and the children too, and waited their coming on the rocks above the passes, that they might sweep destruction on them with their artificial avalanches. When the invader was triumph, he found but little for whatever there was, and had been sheltered in the friendly soil. But how, said I, can it have remained so long undiscovered, when there is a sure index to it if men will but take the trouble to look? The Count smiled, and as his lips ran back over his gums, the long, sharp canine teeth showed out strangely. He answered, because your peasant is at heart a coward and a fool. Oh, my voice cracked. Ahem. I'm gonna drink some water. My voice is cracking. Goodness. All right. We're gonna start over. Because your peasant is at heart a coward and a fool. Those flames only appear on one night, and on that night no man of this land will, if he can help it, stir without his doors. And, dear sir, even if he did, he would not know what to do. Why, even the peasant that you tell me of who marked the place of the flame would not know where to look in daylight, even for his own work. You would not, I dare be sworn, be able to find these places again? There, you're right, I said. He's like, yeah, you're right. I get it. I know no more than the dead were even to look for them. Then we drifted into other matters. Come, he said at last, tell me of London and of the house which you have procured for me. With an apology for my remissness, I went into my own room to get the papers from my bag. Whilst I was placing them in order, I heard a rattling of china and silver in the next room, and as I passed through, noticed that the table had been cleared and the lamp lit, but it was by this time deep into the dark. The lamps were also lit in the study or library, and I found the Count lying on the sofa reading Of All the Things in the World and English Bradshaw's Guide. When I came in, he cleared the books and papers from the table, and with him I went into plans and deeds and figures of all sorts. I'm sorry, when he said he was laying on the couch, I was imagining the scene from the Titanic. Draw me like one of your French girls. I'm sorry. It was a missed moment. Dracula should have done it. Just kidding. He was interested in everything and asked me a myriad questions about the place and its surroundings. He clearly had studied beforehand all he could get on the subject of the neighborhood, for he evidently at the end knew very much more than I did. Oh, wow. When I remarked this, he answered, well, but, my friend, it is not needful that I should. When I go there, I shall be all alone. My friend Harker Jonathan, nay, pardon me, I fall into my country's habit of putting your patronymic site first. My friend Jonathan Harker. Oh, really? They do that in Transylvania? It's the last name first? I didn't know that. My friend Jonathan Harker will not be by my side to correct and aid me. He will be in Exeter, miles away, probably working at papers of law with my other friend Peter Hawkins. So, he went thoroughly into the business of the purchase of the estate at Purfleet. When I had told him the facts and got his signature to the necessary papers, and had written a letter with them ready to post to Mr. Hawkins, he began to ask me how I had come across so suitable a place. I read to him the notes which I had made at the time and which I inscribe here. At Purfleet, on By Road, I came across such a place as seemed to be required, and where was displayed a dilapidated, noticed that the place was for sale. It is surrounded by a high wall of ancient structure built of heavy stones, and has not been repaired for a large number of years. The closed gates are of heavy old oak and iron, all eaten with rust. The estate is called Carfax. The Carfax commercial with the fox. Okay. The estate is called Carfax, no doubt a corruption of the old courtier face, as the house is four-sided, agreeing with the cardinal points of the compass. It contains in all some 20 acres, quite surrounded by the solid stone wall above mentioned. There are many trees on it, which make it in places gloomy, and there is a deep, dark-looking pond, or a small lake, mermaid swamp, what? Evidently fed by some springs, as the water is clear and flows away in fair-sized stream. Ooh, it's a pretty lake. The house is very large, and of all periods back, I should say, to medieval times, for one part is of stone immensely thick, with only a few windows high up and heavily barred with iron. It looks like part of a keep, and is close to an old chapel or church. I could not enter it, as I had not the key of the door leading to it from the house, but I have taken with my Kodak views of it from various points. With my Kodak. Kodak? Like the camera? Yeah? The house had been added to, but in a very straggling way, and I can only guess at the amount of ground it covers, which must be very great. There are but few houses close at hand, one being a very large house, only recently added to and formed into a private lunatic asylum. Oh my goodness. And it is not, however, visible from the grounds. When I had finished, he said, I am glad that it is old and big. I myself am of an old family, and to live in a new house would kill me. A house cannot be made habitable in a day, and after all, how few days ago to make up a century. I rejoice also that there is a chapel of old times. We Transylvanian nobles love not to think that our bones may lie amongst the common dead. I seek not gaiety nor mirth, not the bright voluptuousness of much sunshine and sparkling waters which please the young and gay. I am no longer young, and my heart, through the weary years of mourning over the dead, is not attuned to mirth. Moreover, the walls of my castle are broken, the shadows are many, and the wind breathes cold through the broken battlements and casements. I love the shade and the shadow, and to be alone with my thoughts when I may. Somehow his words and his look did not seem to accord, or else it was that his cast of face made his smile look malignant and saturnine. Huh, saturnine. Presently, with an excuse, he left me, asking me to pull my papers together. It was some little time away, and I began to look at some of the books around me. One was an atlas, which I found opened naturally at England, and as if the map had been much used. On looking at it, I found in certain places little rings marked, and on examining these, I noticed that one was near London on the east side, manifestly where his new estate was situated, and the other two were Exeter and Whitby on the Yorkshire coast. Blah. It was the better part of an hour when the Count returned. Aha, he said. Still at your books? Good. But you must not work always. Come, I have informed that your supper is ready. He took my arm, and we went into the next room, where I found an excellent supper ready on the table. The Count again excused himself, as he had dined out on his being away from home, but he sat as on the previous night and chatted whilst I ate. After supper I smoked, as on the last evening, and the Count stayed with me, chatting and asking questions on every conceivable subject hour after hour. I felt that it was getting very late indeed, but I did not say anything, for I felt under the obligation to meet my host's wishes in every way. In every way. My goodness. Just kidding. I was not sleepy, as the long sleepy yesterday had fortified me, but I could not help experience that chill which comes over one at the coming of dawn, which is like, in its way, the turn of the tide. They say that people who are near death die generally at the change to dawn or at the turn of the tide. Anyone who has, when tired, and tied as it were to his spot, experienced this change of the atmosphere can well believe it. All at once we heard the crow of the cock coming up. Sorry. I think I was going to say that word on stream. We heard the crow of the cock coming up with the preternatural shrillness through the clear morning air. Count Dracula, jumping to his feet, said, "Why, there's the morning again. How remiss I am to let you stay up so late. So long. You must make your conversation regarding my dear new country of England less interesting, so that I may not forget how time flies by us." And with a courtly bow, he left me. I went into my room and threw the curtains, but there was little to notice. My window opened into the courtyard. All I could see was the warm, gray, quickening sky, so I pulled the curtains again and have written of this day. 8th of May. I began to fear as I wrote in this book that I was getting too diffuse, but now I'm glad that I went into detail from the first, for there is something so strange about this place and all in it that I cannot but feel uneasy. About time, Jonathan! I wish I were safe out of it, or that I had never come. It may be that this strange night existence is telling on me, but would that were all. If there were anyone to talk to, I could bear it, but there is no one. I have only the Count to speak with, and I fear, I am myself the only living soul within the place. It may be prosaic, so far as facts can be. It will help me to bear up, and imagination must not run riot with me. If it does, I am lost. Let me say at once how I stand, or seem to. I only slept a few hours when I went to bed, and feeling that I could not sleep any more, got up. I had hung my shaving glass by the window and was just beginning to shave. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder and I heard the Count's voice saying to me, "Good morning." Oh, is this it? I think this is... My friend had mentioned this. Hold on. I think this is it. The scene. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder and heard the Count's voice saying to me, "Good morning." I started, for it amazed me that I had not seen him, since the reflection of the glass covered the whole room behind me. In starting, I had cut myself slightly, but did not notice it at that moment. Having answered the Count's salutation, I turned to the glass again to see how I had been mistaken. This time there could be no error, for the man was close to me, and I could see him over my shoulder. But there was no reflection of him in the mirror. Oh my gosh! Jonathan, are you finally realizing something? The whole room behind me was displayed, but there was no sign of a man in it, except myself. This was startling, and coming on the top of so many strange things was beginning to increase the vague feeling of uneasiness which I always have when the Count is near. But at that instant, I saw that the cut had bled a little, and the blood was trickling over my chin. Ooh, kinky. No, I laid down the razor, turning as I did so half round to look for some sticking plaster. When the Count saw my face, his eyes blazed with a sort of demonic fury, and he suddenly made a grab at my throat. I drew away, and his hand touched the string of beads which held the crucifix. It made an instant change in him, for the fury passed so quickly that I could hardly believe that I was ever there. "Take care," he said. "Take care how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country." Then, seizing the shaving glass, he went on, "And this is the wretched thing that has done the mischief. It is a foul bauble of man's vanity. Away with it!" And opening the window with one wrench of his terrible hand, he flung out the glass, which was shattered into 1,000 pieces on the stone to the courtyard far below. In case anyone's confused, yes, Jonathan was shaving. Dracula's like, "That looks delicious." Touched the rosary. And he's like, sorry, that wasn't me." He just grabs the mirror and chucks it out the window. But this guy hates those creepy old dudes. Right. Yeah, Dracula was just like, "Oh, this silly little thing." Yeah, nope. And then he just throws it out the window. He just chucks it. Literally chucks it out the window. Into 1,000 pieces on the stones of the courtyard far below. Then he withdrew without a word. It's very annoying, for I do not see how I'm to shave unless in my watch case or the bottom of the shaving pot, which is fortunately of metal. When I went to the dining room, breakfast was prepared, but I cannot find the Count anywhere. So I breakfast alone. It was strange that as yet I had not seen the Count eat or drink. He must be a very peculiar man. After breakfast, I did a little exploring in the cat. I like how he just completely disregarded the reflection after he threw it out the window. Jonathan's like, what the heck, man? I can't shave. It's like, Jonathan, did you not? Jonathan, why? I feel like this man is more dense than most harem protagonists. I'm just saying. Oh, goodness, Jonathan. After breakfast, I did a little exploring in the castle. I went down the stairs and found a room looking towards the south. The view was magnificent, and from where I stood there was every opportunity of seeing it. The castle was on the edge of a terrible precipice. Precipice. Yeah. A stone falling from the window would fall 1,000 feet without touching anything. As far as the eye can reach is a sea of green treetops, with occasionally a deep rift where there is a chasm. Here and there are silver threads where the rivers wind in deep gorges through the forest. But I am not in heart to describe beauty, for when I had seen the view I explored further. Doors, doors, doors everywhere, and all locked and bolted. Johnson's a little bit of a dumbass. A little bit. In no place safe from the windows and the castle walls is there an available exit. The castle is a veritable prison, and I am a prisoner! Dun dun da da dun da da dun dun. All right. As I said earlier, there is something I need to attend to that I just found out this morning, and so I have to end the stream around here. Can I make the book disappear? There we go. So yeah, we're gonna end it there. We managed to make it 2 chapters in. Either that was a lot of reading, or I just read. No, it wasn't that much reading. Though this is going to be a very long first part to the reading of series, considering how long this book is. But I do hope y'all are enjoying the way I'm reading it. I'm sorry if my tone keeps changing. It's not consistent. This is just genuinely how I'm taking in the information in my head. And yeah. Please join me next week. Again, as I said, on Mondays, I'm gonna try. Very nice. Thank you. On Mondays, I'm gonna try and just keep this in the morning. Yeah, so I'm gonna do the reading of series Monday mornings, and then for Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, I'm gonna play games. Excuse me. Right now, I'm still doing Pokemon, so Thursday is reserved for the Pokemon Arceus game. But once I'm done with Pokemon, then we'll move on to like other games. As for what I have planned next week, I don't know if I want to do the endings for Mermaid Swamp. I have so many book recommendations. As long as they're in the public domain, I will read them. Sure thing, Tonya. Thanks for the streams. Be seeing you. Okay, bye. Thank you, Evolution. See you next time. Yeah, as long as the books are in the public domain, I will gladly read them. What was I saying? Right. So the reading of series I will keep to Monday mornings. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons I will do games. I don't know what to do next week. I guess I'll think about it. I'm still looking into the Mermaid Swamp endings. We'll see how that goes. If I don't do that, definitely gonna try FNAF next week if I can. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, everybody, for the reading of Dracula. So far, we've gone through chapter 1 and chapter 2. So hopefully next week we can probably do this for a little longer and probably get at least up to chapter 7. Hopefully. No, wait, that's a lot of reading. Let's try for 5. 5 is more optimistic and for my throat to handle it. Goodness me. It's been a while since I've read aloud. But yeah, everybody have a wonderful rest of the morning. I guess let me put my music back on. Hold on. Can y'all hear it? Good volume? Yeah. Alright, we'll have a wonderful rest of the morning, afternoon, and evening in whichever part of the world you're in. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody, and for those watching the VOD, I hope you enjoy, and please stay tuned for my weekly reading of Dracula until we finish. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye, everybody! Bye!